So imagine the situation, like you've just been out downtown or whatever, you've had about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pints of lager, whatever floats your boat, and then you go home, you crash out on the settee, the sofa, and then somebody wakes you up and thrusts a chessboard under your nose and makes you play blitz chess. Right, it just sounds like a normal Saturday night, right? But under those conditions, there are still some moves that you will not play, and there are some moves that you will play. Right, you're not going to open the game with A3, for example, and there are certain tactical patterns that you will not miss. Why is that? Well, that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video, as well as asking some of the most important chess questions that are never asked. So if you happen to read chess forums, having the misfortune to spend time reading those, you'll get people will say, how do I get to 1500? How do I get to 1400? How do I get to 1000? You know, these sort of questions. You know, how do I become a grandmaster? Like, you know, what opening should I play against d4? Right, what opening should I play against e4? These are all the wrong questions, right? These are just nonsense questions, most of them. Well, the opening ones are fine, but the other ones are a bit nonsense. Right, so they're no good. So what are the right questions? Certainly not. So before I get on to the questions, the starting point is that patterns are the most important thing in chess. Right, nowadays, nobody seems to argue against that. Right, it's all about what patterns you can store in your head, you take to your game, and you play chess. If you've got a larger store of patterns, you're a stronger chess player than someone who's got less patterns than you. That's it. That's chess improvement in a nutshell. It's pattern recognition. With that in mind, then, the questions that people should be asking and never do, or very, very rarely do, are these ones. How can I increase my store of patterns in the most effective way possible? Right, that's got to be the most important question in chess that's not asked. Right, closely followed by things like how many patterns do I need and to what degree do I need to know them? Those are also very good questions. So, Jeremy Silman wrote a decent article on patterns. I will put the link on the description. But as he notes in this article that he writes on chess.com, that patterns are not easy to get into the head of an adult. Right, it's not about seeing the pattern once or twice or 2 or 3 times. Right, it's about going over the same patterns hundreds of times until it's ingrained in your head that you could play it in that comatose state that I mentioned at the start of the video. That's how ingrained patterns need to be in order to become like truly effective. So one of the reasons I like Chessable so much and why I started on Chessable when I was playing at the end of when I was playing chess is the space repetition algorithm. Right, so then you're studying whatever you're studying, tactics, so the opening's endgame material, you're using the space repetition that's already built into the software. So that is one thing that I recommend for doing to improve pattern recognition. Problem is volume. You need lots and lots of patterns. Nobody really knows. I've looked around at how many sort of patterns you need. It's difficult to quantify, but I've seen a number knocked around 10,000 patterns I've seen to how to become a strong player. I think we're talking about 2,000 to become a 2,000 player has something like 10,000 patterns. I don't know if that's true. It is a number I've seen mentioned in a few places. I don't know how anybody goes about proving that, but that kind of like large figure seems to be about right. Basically based on like grandmasters that seems to be like 100,000 patterns and sort of a 2,000 player, something like 10,000 patterns. So it's a massive amount of volume. This article is one of the best blogs I've read for a long time. It's on Lichess. It is absolutely definitely worth a read. And in this article, he talks about why you should play blitz games and why you should analyze blitz games. If you can play blitz chess and you can spot patterns within the first 5 to 6 seconds, then you know that the pattern is engraved. So if you play a game of chess, a blitz or a rapid game, and if you're playing those games and you're spotting patterns, that's when you know that you truly know the patterns. Not just, you know, when you've got lots of time on a clock so you can calculate. Because pattern recognition, it's not a calculation exercise. It's like, do you instantly know that pattern? Within 5 seconds, you can scan the board, you can see the move. That's when you know that the pattern's ingrained. So in the article, the GM talks about unconscious competence, which is the ability to play something so quickly that you're not really aware of it, you know, which is how strong players play at bullet time controls. And it's the same reason, you know, you can walk home from work, wherever, without really thinking about it because you've done that so often. So how do you increase your store of chess patterns then? I think time, a lot of time, right, a lot of repetition and volume. Right, and then you can test whether you've actually got those patterns by playing quicker chess and then analysing, looking for the mistakes and the patterns that you miss. And what I used to do is I used to play blitz chess and I used to spot the mistakes or the patterns that I've not quite got I just sort of missed, and then I used to import them into Chessable, and then I'd train those areas, and that's something I'd also recommend. But volume, and time is basically what you need. So if people just put the time and energy into doing that, then they will sort of hit the rating goals that they've got. Rather than say, how do I get to 1500, you should be saying, how do I increase pattern recognition, working on that, and then the ratings will come. So goodbye and take care.